And good morning at 10 o'clock on the dot. Rob Kirkpatrick with Bernadette Lee. Continuous coverage of the flooding in our area, the recovery efforts, the weather today. Still gray outside, not raining right here in Lafayette, but still floodwaters and flooding on many streets around the area.
You know, and for those closures, you really need to go to our website at KPEL965.com and also to Facebook, because while one lane may be open now of a particular intersection, it does not mean the lane is open on another. For example, in the area of Youngsville and Broussard PD saying, look, Highway 182 is closed past Highway 96 at that dip there because there's still water on the roadway. But one lane of US 90 westbound at 92 Young Street there is open. Eastbound 90 at Ambassador still closed, and just waiting for a lot of this water to run off. All right, the man who has a lot of information for us this morning, the director of our emergency operations, that's Craig Stansbury, joining us. Sir, good morning. Thank you for your time. How are you?
Good morning. Doing well.
Well, we want to see if you would give us kind of an overall glimpse as to what we know about Lafayette Parish at this point this morning.
We got a briefing from the National Weather Service early this morning. They're predicting hopefully less than an inch of rain throughout the rest of today. And if that forecast holds dear, then hopefully we'll be able to slowly recede in some of the flooding areas. Really what we're doing now and working with all the first responders, the sheriff's office, and the police departments throughout Youngsville and Broussard, because those are the areas that have been mostly affected, is actually doing supplies and not emergency rescues. The sheriff's office handled thousands of calls of emergency rescues throughout the last 24 hours. I believe right now the first responders are doing some type of assistance, but not necessarily emergency rescues. I heard you giving information out about asking people to still, stay off the roadways. Definitely don't go through high water. Definitely not around barricades. When people start doing that, then unfortunately the first responders have to start turning back to emergency rescues.
Yeah.
And that creates a problem. So the cooperation of the public definitely helps all of the first responders.
A lot of people said, or Jeremy Morrow from the Acadiana chapter of the American Red Cross was telling us that a lot of folks that came in to the Hyman Center last night really couldn't tell them how they were able to get out because they didn't know so many people had a hand in helping. Are y'all getting a lot of volunteers, or is your effort just so coordinated, or both?
It's a little bit of both, and we got a lot of people that wanted to volunteer, and we greatly appreciated that. But what happens is the first responders have to keep the coordination or the volunteers coordinated. So, it's very difficult to use volunteers for a lot of reasons, whether it's safety reasons or they have to be paired up with some of the first responders. Some of those resources were used, but we got a lot of help from wildlife and fishery, from the National Guard. Law enforcement agencies and first responders from other parishes have come down. So we can say at this particular point that those resources are adequate at this time, definitely because the call volume has gone down. Mm-hmm. So, again, the effort is still reaching people that might be trapped in their houses in Youngsville. There's actually some neighborhoods that, for a better word, are almost islands now, that they can't get out. It can only be, accessed by boat, but the people are in their residence and the residents haven't flooded. Just the access to those neighborhoods have. So what we're doing is we're actually getting them supplies, and we're using boats and different things to do that. So it's not an emergency rescue, but it is a rescue to make sure they have water and food and things like that. So we have some very unique situations that are going on in the parish.
I would imagine so, with what that sounds like. So, Mr. Stansbury, I'm curious, too, is there an overall guesstimate of a number right now as far as how many homes have flooded in our parish? Is it, would it just be a guesstimate?
It would be a very big guesstimate. I mean, I can give you some very preliminary numbers. Mm-hmm. Here at the EOC, we received over over 650 calls of flooding in homes.
Mm-hmm.
I know just probably in Youngsville alone, they've received over 400 incidents that they know. So it's probably going to be in the thousands. And obviously, we're going to try to gather all the information. It's going to be passed up to the governor's office of Homeland Security. They're going to be contacting FEMA, but not really until we're able to get a federal declaration where we have a 1-800 number from FEMA. We're going to be able to, pass all that information up to them. And once that happens, we're going to pass it on to the local media. That's the best thing people can do if they want to know about roads being opened or different things like that. Y'all are keeping constant in contact with us and all the municipalities. We'll forward that information to people. So that's the best way to get that information.
Yeah, absolutely. And staying put, because like you said, you don't want these people, you don't have to go out and rescue anybody else at this point.
We would like to keep the emergency rescues down as much as possible, yes.
Yeah.
How does an event like this kind of flex the muscle of your department to deal with a tropical storm or a hurricane season?
Yeah, it sounds like everything was so coordinated.
We're right in the middle of it. Yesterday, I told Bernie a little bit earlier about talking to the station in Canada who asked, how well is the state? Well, I had nothing bad to say. I mean, we've been able to fulfill all these requests. We weren't caught unprepared. Is that the view from your desk this morning?
I think everyone worked really well together, coordinated everything. We weren't caught, unprepared. I think this is when we look at it in hindsight, it's going to be almost probably a record flood in such a short period of time. We had probably record number of calls for flooding in houses so quickly, but I think the response to that was excellent on all parts of all the first responders. Again, we wished we could have gotten to people quicker because obviously we had a number of people that were waiting, but that's just a numbers game to where the first responders had to put things in order and to respond. But I'm proud to say that I'm pretty sure they were able to get to everybody that actually needed help, and we're still continuing this as we speak.
And, it's the same situation for someone who may need medical assistance, or at least that's what I would assume.
Definitely. If you need medical assistance, that's something put in a special category. But also we had hundreds of people at a shelter they were able to provide at the Hyman Center. The Red Cross and everyone that manned that shelter did an excellent job. But, I'd like to also say that the community, the retail community, whether it was food, the hotels, Walmart donated free supplies to us, not just the first responders, but the people that needed at our shelter. The community as a whole came together and helped the first responders, which again helped everybody else in the community.
So what was it like in your position as director now for this event? I mean, it's come pretty close to, this is your first big event, really.
As director, it is. Fortunately, I was able to use some of the experience that being with the sheriff's office, I've been in this room before. It was a different chair, but it was very satisfying. Only on the point to see everybody come together to help their community. It's always very sad that to see that all the people that lost things, their house, flood and stuff. But again, I don't know of a fatality that has come about that I'm aware of right now. And that's probably the most important thing is, hopefully, no loss of life due to this incident.
Absolutely. Well, Craig Stansbury, the director of our Operations Emergency Center. Sir, I want to thank you very much for your time and updating us this morning.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Craig. All right, coming up now on 1010, good choice there. It was communicated. Everything was set. These folks all come together. The volunteers in our community. We have an amazing community, and now we just have to figure out from today onward for these hundreds of folks that we know in Youngsville and in Broussard who are going to be trying to, a lot of folks don't carry flood insurance, so we're going to have to see what we can do with that declaration and what, is there anything the feds can bring to them or what happens from this point on?
I talked to someone who's actually in the process of buying a house.
Wow.
Okay, about 2 weeks away, and the neighborhood on the first day had water, halfway up the front yard. And, you kind of feel two ways. You love this house, but thank goodness it didn't happen right when you moved in,
Right.
And I actually drove by there for them a little bit earlier before I came in to go see it. The water did not get in the house, but in talking to them, they said, we don't care if we're in a flood zone or not. like the yearly premium that it is worth the peace of mind just knowing that this could happen.
Right.
Yes, it is did we just settle on 200-year flood?
I think so, yes.
But hey, it could happen.
Right.
So it's very interesting. I wanted to touch on something. We've gotten a lot of emails about the pumps in Youngsville.
Okay, we want to talk about that, the pumps in Youngsville.
Yeah, so let me tell you what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of posts saying that we've known for 6 months the pumps in Youngsville have not worked. These are users on Facebook, on emailing us. The pumps did not work. That's why we flooded, etc. We reached out to the Youngsville people, the folks down in Youngsville who are in charge of all this, to get some clarification and see what happened.
All right. So for those folks who have been wondering, hey, what was happening? According to Matt Romero, one of the Youngsville councilmen, and we will call him. We can speak with him about this issue and talk with him. There was too much rain, water pouring into the pump plant. This happens often. That's why it's called a flash flood. Because
it's in a flash.
Absolutely. It will dump inches within a record period of time. Now, the pumps were open, and at the top, the pumps had water pouring out. They were so full. We only lost power on one for a short time frame, and that was just the first morning on Friday. But the pumps were working. When you have a flash flood and you're inundated with water, it doesn't matter. It was like the same way in Katrina. It didn't matter. The pumps were flooding, even if they were working, with the water spilling over. It was a situation where it wasn't going to help.
And the intake, like they kind of explained, where it was happening, where the drains are. Well, the drains that are supposed to collect standing water were getting rained into as well.
Right.
So, it's just an altogether...
But you know what? We'll talk to them again. We'll ask again. We'll talk with the mayor in Youngsville, and we'll check with them again and talk with them about the entire situation. And where does the city go from here? That was one of my big questions when I talked to Councilman Matt Romero an hour ago, because we were talking about what happened to that particular area during Hurricane Allison. Now, at that point, they got inches of rain, a lot of rain during Hurricane Allison, and Erath actually was the hardest hit at that time with 26 inches. But Romero was telling me as of this morning, their record rainfall was 27 inches.
But if you look at it, from when they had there, when Allison happened, those neighborhoods were not all there.
Right.
You were talking about cane fields.
That's right.
And
different story.
Yeah, you're talking about cane fields, which, yes, may be disastrous for the farmer who owns that cane field if they flood. But now you're talking about homes and real estate on there now.
That's
so
right. In addition
very
to
interesting.
everything, the sugar cane is still around.
For sure. Okay, we're gonna get a quick break in right here. We're gonna come back. We talked to Dave Baker or the guy at our sister station, the man, Bruce Michaels. He talked to Dave Baker to kind of give us a look at what we should expect for today. Look, these gray skies, if your house is still sitting in water or you have a flooded street that you're trying to get out of, these gray skies are not encouraging. But the news Dave Baker has is pretty encouraging. All right, 10:13, we'll be back with continuous coverage of the flooding event this time go around. Right.